All right, welcome into week 2 of the WATD Fantasy Draft, and a big success week 1. Some great picks, some picks that showed we weren't quite as in tune as we thought we were. A great opening weekend of action, though, and we're back at it. Quinn, Johnny, Brendan, the Sports Exchange boys here with you for week 2. All right, so let's give you first and foremost an update on week 1, looking over everything. And this will lend into why the draft order is what it is. So currently, Brendan, we have everybody with a final line except for Will Johnson. I have partial stats for Will Johnson out of Pembroke. Ben Scalzi, he had his final line, 33.6 points. Nate Goodine and Joey Burke had their final lines. Good days receiving, both in the teens. And Hull, a bit of a tough defensive performance against South Shore Votech. Charlie Camella as well, and this is why I say not as in tune as we thought we were. Somebody actually informed me at the Holy Cross BC tailgate on Saturday, hey, saw that you guys picked Charlie Camella in the fantasy draft. Yeah, it turns out he has a broken collarbone and is going to be out for a while, which is why you saw, I forget his name, but Pierre.
7-on-7. It just happened recently.
Yeah, so I think it was Delvin Pierre. But went nuts for Severian, 200 yards on the ground plus against Everett. So he's the new de facto guy, it seems, for the Hawks. Johnny, for you, I have final lines on Rockland defense, Mackay Bryan, Cassius Johnson. I have partial lines on Jonathan Montero and Owen Pace. I have nothing for Will Bostrom out of Norwell. So you are I guess you're tied for the least complete. For me, I have Tyler Lennox, who had a big day as well. With over 29 points. Liam Appleton and Plymouth South's defense. I have partial lines on Will St. Pierre and Chris Oman, and I have nothing for Will McNamara out of Pembroke. So, with that said, the scoring looks like this right now. Johnny's sitting at 41.8 points. Bit of a rough outing in first go of it for Owen Pace. Jonathan Montero relatively quiet because Severian was able to do it all on the ground. Cassius Johnson was really the big piece for you with 32 of your 41 points. And Brendan, me and you right now, separated by 0.2 points. You are at 74.3. I am at 74.1. And being that I have the less complete line, I will defer the second pick to you so you can pick a little bit higher. So the order today will once again be Johnny picking first, Brendan picking second, and myself picking third. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Week 2, lead us off, Johnny, 1-1 overall.
Yeah, I mean, tough showing. That's not a great start for me, but a lot of missing pieces, so we'll try to get back. I'm going to go a guy who I saw in person on Thursday, got a little bit banged up, so I'm hoping he's 100%, but I was really impressed with him. I'm going to go Vinny Mancini from Hanover. They're playing at Hingham. I mean, he was a guy that, obviously got hurt there in that second half, so they went away from him. But if he's back and he's fully healthy, he's a dog for that Hanover team that went into Duxbury and was able to slay the Dragons fairly easily. So, I look for Vinny Mancini to do big things at Hingham.
I think it's a great pick. I think that what he was able to do while hobbled, and we talked a little bit with them Sunday on the Sports Exchange about it, and they had to start making determinations and looking at guys and saying, all right, you either get to play on the defense or on the offense. They have so many studs that go both ways. Vinny got the unlucky draw of playing on the defensive side of the ball in the second half, not getting to continue to run. So I think he'll be raring to go come kick off against Hingham. So I think a great first overall pick. All right, Brendan, on to you.
I'm going to go with Brendan Canyon this week. I think he's going to have a big game. It's just based on the matchup. I think it's going to be a good one between Quincy and Pembroke.
Yeah, I like it. Back-to-back weeks with a Pembroke running back on your team, Brendan, and I think there's a
different one this time around.
Yeah, right, exactly. And I think it's a good reason. They got a great ground game. You saw they did it mostly on the ground. I think they had like 250 yards or so against Whitman Hanson. So I think that's a really solid pick. With that, I think I'll go first quarterback off the board, and I'm gonna ride the hot hand here. I'm gonna go with Ethan Pohl out of East Bridgewater. They're going up against a Nauset team that looked, bad against Norwell in week 1, and I think that had a lot to do with Norwell taking a big step forward this year. But Nauset doesn't really seem like they've got it together quite yet. Ethan Pohl and the East Bridgewater offense just put up 41 in a loss against West Bridgewater. So they're A, going to be motivated, and B, have already shown that they can score and score in bunches. So I'm going to take the first quarterback off the board and go Ethan Pohl. All right, Johnny.
I'm going to go back to running backs. I'm actually going to go back to that exact game that we saw, but I was impressed with this guy as well. You go other side of the ball with Alex Barlow out of Duxbury. I really thought he played well. He was a guy that Duxbury continues to look for. He's kind of that safety net. Whenever they need to play, they go to him, especially with that QB battle that they had going on with Carly and Jones. Kind of taking snaps. And I think they look to Barlow to steady that ship. And it's a tough matchup against Mansfield, admittedly, but if they're going to win, I think he has to play a role.
I think they have to slow down the game. I think they're going to be looking to keep it on the ground. And again, I think a similar kind of idea where he's going to be motivated by, a game where I think he left some, didn't quite get the opportunities, right? They had to pass a lot more than they probably would have liked to, played from behind. So I'm sure he'll be raring to go this week. All right, Brendan, your round 2 pick.
Okay, this time I'm going to pick a Xaverian receiver who's actually healthy. I'm going to go with Jonathan Montero. I think that he's going to have a big game against BR. Maybe to start the game, maybe Xaverian jumps out to an early lead, and he's going to play a big role in that.
All right. I'm not going to get on you because I didn't highlight the page fast enough. I think that's a worthy back-to-back week pick. Johnny got him last week. It was relatively quiet, and I think that Xaverian did it all on the ground. Not that they have anything to prove, right? John Montero's a Liberty commit already. Henry Hasselbeck's a Michigan State commit already. But I imagine they're going to be itching to pass it a little bit more. They didn't have to against Everett. I don't know that they'll have to against Bridgewater Raynham, but I can't see him being quiet 2 weeks in a row. So I like it. All right, I'll dive into, let's see here. I'm going to go into my running back room, and I think I'm going to go with Belusa Tonwa from Middleborough. I think they got Halston. I think it's going to be a tough matchup, but loved what I saw from him week 1. And I just had to be the first one to get Baloo on the board this season. All right, Johnny, round 3.
I'm going to go get a wideout. I'm going to go to a Thursday night game this week. I'm going to go Connor Pease out of Abington. They're out of Ponequit. I like the matchup for the Green Wave. I think that's one where they're going to look to throw the ball as well as run the ball, and I think they're going to look to Pease to do it.
I like it. Can't speak to what he did in week 1, but part of a big win. Good start for them against Cohasset, and I think he's just such a big body. He's going to have a breakout game somewhere this year. Not necessarily a breakout, but he's going to have a big game sliding out from the line onto the to the tight end role this season. And I like this one for him, Johnny. I think that's a good pick. All right, Brennan.
You know what? I just penned an article on this guy, and I think it's going to be a game he's going to have to step up. I'm going to go with West Bridgewater's James Harris as my quarterback this week, going against Norwell, South Shore League opponent. West Bridgewater's going to have a big game if they're going to stay in it, and he's going to play the biggest role.
He was absolutely phenomenal this past week. Yeah, I great pick. I think he's going to be sensational.
Correct.
If they want to, I think they're going to be in for another shootout. That was a huge win for them. They hadn't beaten East Bridgewater in a long, long time, and he was a central figure in it. And he's going to be big this year. And I know I saw that he had talked a little bit about, Coach Cogler saying we're going to open it up. We're going to let you pass a little bit more this season. I think as far as dual threat quarterbacks go, he's one of the best in the area. So I love that get for you, Brennan. And that leaves you, Johnny, again, another week where you can just kind of back pocket the quarterback position. So we'll see if you don't screw up this time. All right, I'm gonna go on the ground as well. I'm gonna close out my running back room, and this is really just because I want to set the tone early, boys. And I admittedly don't know a whole. You know what? No, I'm gonna backtrack here. I'm gonna go Justin LaChance. I'm gonna go with another Plymouth South running back. Cassius got his last week. Justin also scored, and I think you're going to see more of that. They've got Revere, 6:00 start time on Friday. They've handled Revere in the past, so give me Justin LeChance to have a big night on Friday night. Round 4.
I'm going to go probably with another receiver here. There's just so many good ones to choose from. I am going to go. I'm going to go with Teron Williams from Rockland. What did I find? Manchester Essex this week. Kind of an interesting matchup there. I think they look to throw the ball a little bit and get him involved.
The 8 opponent, I believe. I don't think they've moved up. I think that's an opponent that Rockland can take care of business against. He was big for them. And yeah, I if I was you, Johnny, I might consider double dipping in that game. I don't want to tip my own hand, but Taryn was on my board. I think that's a great pick. All right, Brendan, give it to me.
I'm looking at a defense this time around. Just going to jump ahead and do it. I think I'm going to go with Carver going against Tri-County. I think Carver has a chance to really step up this season, and they're going against the Mayflower Athletic Conference opponent that we really don't have a true idea about. Most of the time, Mayflower Athletic Conference opponents struggle against the likes of the South Shore League. So I'm going to go with Carver this week.
Yeah, I think that they're going to be underrated as a unit all season long because I think the focus is on what they do on the offensive side of the ball. I think this is one of those weeks, Brendan, that again, I think they could have a big game for you. I don't even have it in front of me, but it's basically a modified fantasy scoring. We talked about it. I'm not going to be able to see what defenses generate as far as turnovers. It's strictly going to be based on points, and it's tiered. It's not going to be quite so penal as like traditional fantasy football. I'm not going to start.
I mean, come on, what if they have a Dallas Cowboys night?
Yeah, well, I know. I just can't do anything if I don't know. So, but that said, I think it's going to be a low scoring game for Tri-County in that one. So I think you got a solid pick there, Brendan. I like going to the defense early. All right, I need a wide receiver. I got to get into my wide receiver room. I'm going to go to that same game. I'm going to go with they got a few different guys. I think it's hard to go wrong with any of them. I'm going to go Robbie Peterson. Here. I think at some point or another, all of the Carver wide receivers are going to come off the board in a fantasy draft this year. I've got no other reason than just talking to him preseason. I just love the attitude. So give me Robbie Peterson on my board. And it's back-to-back Crusaders off the board. Johnny, round 5.
I'm going to save my quarterback for last. I am going to go with the Severian defense. I think they played pretty well against Everett. Admittedly let Everett back into the game all of a sudden.
Yep.
But you got Bridgewater Raynham this week. Milford hung 40 on VR. They only scored 7 against a Milford defense. You'd have to assume Severian's defense is ready to go after last week, and it's a road game for Severian, but I think their defense is going to come out pretty good that week.
I think the logic is sound there for me. All right, Severian defense off the board. Brendan, round 5. You need I count a running back and a wide receiver?
I need another running back and a wide receiver. I just noticed, is Pembroke playing Austin Prep?
I have that on the sheet, and I was looking at it just a second ago and starting to question it. I when I put it together, that's what their schedule said, which is kind of not.
But all right. All right.
You go.
So let's see. Just going over the schedule here, looking at some of the matchups.
Yeah, still
I'm
listening.
going to go with Liam Appleton out of Cohasset. I think he's going to have a good game against Silver Lake. Patriot League teams are always tough against the South Shore League. He's going to have to step up, and he's going to be the main guy, I think.
Yeah, Liam was solid for me last week. Let me see. Finished with 10 carries for 35 yards and a score, 2 receptions for 48. Just announcing himself to the world, and I'll highlight it here. sophomore quarterback at Cohasset. They're a young group. They're going to have to figure some things out. When you've got a guy like Michael Wildfire under center, come on, that's
awesome.
No question. I think by the season's end, he's just so versatile. He's got a McCaffrey thing about him. I said last week, I think he's going to be one of the best players in the South Shore, on the South Shore this year. I think he's going to provide great value because he's going to run the ball and he's going to catch the ball for you week in and week out. So I think Liam Appleton, solid pick there. All right, I might as well snatch up my defense, and I think I'm gonna bring Archie's into the fold. Give me Archie's home against Olive Rames. Tough week 1 for OA. I think Archie's should have a pretty solid week on the defensive side of the ball. So I'll go there, and that closes out the Arch. And you know what, Johnny? I just made the mistake you did last week and took my defense off the board first.
Yeah, it's easier said than done. You talked some crap earlier.
All right, Johnny, your quarterback.
My quarterback, I am going to go back to the Rockland game, and I'm going to take Jordan DePina. Like I said earlier, I think it's a pretty good matchup for them, and I'm at home against Manchester Essex, and I think DePina shines. What
a performance for him week 1. So final line, according to the Ledger, 135 yards, 4 TDs on the ground, and then also had a touchdown through the air. Had touchdown runs of 23, 49, 3, and 13 yards. And the touchdown pass was 29 yards to Taron Williams, who you got off the board. I like who they're going against this week, Johnny. That is a team that I think, as much as anybody, feels like they have something to prove this year. And Jordan DePina has absolutely the attitude I want in the guy at the helm. I think he's transitioned seamlessly, clearly into that position. Great pick to come off the board. I think that rounds your team out nicely. All right, Brendan, your wide receiver to close out your board.
You know what? I think I'm going to go with a BC High play here. I'm going to go with Max Galvin against Reading. I think that's going to be a high-scoring game between BC High and the Rockets. And you know what? I think he's going to be the catalyst for the Eagles in this one.
I like it. Reading has had some good teams in recent years. BC High seems in a situation where they're on the comeback this year. Getting to play. I think are they at home this week? Yeah, they are. Second game at the new facility.
The new stadium.
Yeah. All right. I like it. Max Galvin off the board. And I will close things out. I'm undecided as where I want to go here. I think what I'm going to do is I feel like, you know what? I'm not going to be too scrupulous about this. We've been a little bit heavy Catholic in this draft. I'm trying to. No, you know what? I don't care. Jay Camo, Cardinal Spellman. Give me Jay Camo. They're going up against Martha's Vineyard, first home game of the season. Yeah, I give me someone from the Cards. Yeah, Jay Camo. Final pick of the draft. That rounds us out for this week. All right, Johnny at the helm. Jordan DePina at quarterback. Vinny Mancini, Alex Barlow in the ground game. Connor Pease and Taron Williams, your receivers. Severian on defense. Brendan, your quarterback. James Harris, running backs Brendan Kanya and Liam Appleton, wide receivers John Montero and Max Galvin and Carver on your defense. I have got Ethan Pohl at quarterback, Baloo Satanwa and Justin LaChance, my running backs, Robbie Peterson and Jake Camo, my receivers, and Archie's on the defensive side of the ball. All right, solid week. We'll see. We'll see if we fare better as far as score collecting. Not bad for week 1. We'll make sure we're on everybody's boards or everybody's email distribution lists by week 2, so we can really bring this home. But yeah, week 1 in the books, and moving on to week 2, we've got 2 games coming up this week. We'll be in Brockton on Thursday night as the Boxers and the Franklin Panthers get after it.
Wiggy.
What's that?
Wiggy.
Yeah, and then Friday night we're going to be down at Veterans, North Quincy and Braintree getting after it. I think that should be a really great game. So That will wrap us here for week 2 of the WATD Fantasy Draft. If you haven't already, go ahead and hit the like and subscribe button below. You can find more content here all throughout the season. It won't just be the draft, so look out for more stuff coming up throughout the year. And don't forget to tune in every Sunday night to the Sports Exchange to recap the last week in high school football. All right, for Brennan, for Johnny, I'm Quinn. That'll do it. We'll see you after week 2.